Past the void, the developer room is shrouded in darkness. Kinger is able to think clearly, and with his 7 years of computer science, he is somehow able to alter the developer tool. As of this video, there are 6 episodes of the Amazing Digital Circus. As the series approaches its end, I've been wondering a lot lately, how exactly will the show end? Will they or won't they escape the circus? I'm Maysumi, and in this video, I'm going to discuss 6 different theories speculating what kind of ending we might get for the Digital Circus. For these theories, I'm going to be using almost exclusively information that comes directly from what we've seen in the show. I won't be discussing things Gooseworx has said in tweets or the like, mostly because I'm just not really someone who pays attention to stuff like that. With my limited knowledge on Gooseworx though, I do have an overall assumption. Their style seems very alternative to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the way the story ends. I think it's very possible it will have an unexpected or untraditional ending. With that being said, let's get into the theories. Theory number 1 starts with the idea that Caine is gonna abstract or crash. There's a good amount of evidence to support this. We've seen Caine glitch out a few times. First, when he was giving therapy to Zubul, he freaked out because he felt like he's bad at his only job of making fun adventures for the circus cast. We also saw his eyes flash red and blue after the favorite character awards, because he had 0 votes for favorite. What if eventually Caine gets so upset that he abstracts and the whole circus is destroyed with him? We know that abstraction generally happens because of extreme emotions. So what if Caine, even though he's not human, is capable of abstracting as well? What exactly would happen if Caine abstracts? As we saw in the therapy session, it seems like the world might fall apart with him. I think there are a few possibilities of what this could lead to. The first path that Caine's abstraction could lead to is the darkest. What if Caine abstracts, the program ends, and they all die within it? This would be one hell of a way to end the series. Killing every character is just about one of the craziest things I imagine this series could do. While I'm not sure how likely this is, I sure hope it's not what happens. Path 2. What if Caine abstracts, all of the cast in the circus still die, but we learn that they weren't really the people they thought they were, but just copies of the circus members' consciousnesses. That's a hard word to say. It makes sense that their physical bodies wouldn't be affected, because if they were, imagine Pomni's real-life body just laying on the floor in that abandoned building. I would guess that Pomni's been in there for at least a month now. Her body is unlikely to be found, and she would have starved to death. I think there's a good amount of evidence suggesting the characters are digital copies. If Caine is able to abstract like the others, what does this say about the others? I think that abstracting is similar to co-corrupting. They become these formless monsters when they abstract because not their human minds, but their digitally recreated personality's code has endured too much strain to the point that it corrupts. In this line of logic, it wouldn't make sense for a human mind to abstract, but if they're just copies of their personalities, AI like Caine, then it does make sense. Moving on to path 3 if Caine is to abstract. This path leans less towards the comparisons to the way real-life computers work, and more into the fact that the show is fictional. What if Caine abstracts, the circus world is destroyed, but they all get physically sent back into the real world? If we consider the fact that this world is fictional, and it doesn't necessarily have to follow the rules of our real world, what if being dragged into the circus is actually a physical thing? Their bodies are sucked into the virtual world, and then when it all falls apart when Caine abstracts, they get shot right back out. This is probably one of the best case scenarios for the members of the circus, aside from the fact that my boy Caine dies for it. What do you think about this theory? Okay, now theory 2. This theory also has 2 slightly different paths, but the main idea is, what if they just never escape the circus? The first path is that they never escape, but they come to terms with living there. Personally, I feel like the series going down this direction is possible. Aside from Caine glitching out more often lately, which could possibly be nothing more than a red herring, it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of things leading up to an end. Ultimately, the focus of the show so far has been primarily on how these people are coping with their new environment. So it seems fitting that the show could end with them never escaping at all. I mean, look at Kinger. He seems fairly at peace with the fact that he has to just deal with living in the circus. He just tries to make it a good experience for himself and the others the best he can. The other possibility is that they never come to terms with the fact that they can't leave the circus, and continue to feel trapped and hopeless. I'm trying not to speculate too much based on my guess of what kind of writer Gooseworx is, but because I think that they might want to write an untraditional story arc, I think this path is possible too. It really is just a hunch. Admittedly, I don't have much evidence from the show to support this claim. But hey, that's just a theory. Rest in peace, Matt Pat. I want to root for a happy ending, so I'm hopeful that this isn't where the story goes, even if it's possible. I really love these characters, and I want them to be happy. Moving on to Theory 3. This theory is fairly simple, and it's based on the saying that hell is other people. What if this whole world has been set up as a way to torture the circus members with their social interactions? They picked people who they knew personalities wouldn't mesh well together in order to cause as much conflict and emotional trauma for them as possible. Consider this possibility too. What if only one of the members of the circus is actually a genuine human, and the others are all NPCs specifically designed to make it a bad experience? If this scenario were true, Jax would be the most obvious case of, this person's here to mentally torture me. But it makes sense that they wouldn't all be like that, because then it'd be too obvious. It could have a twist as well. Pomni doesn't even have to necessarily be the real person. Maybe it's Gangle. She is the one Jax tortures the most after all. Anyways, while I don't think this theory is one of the more likely, I think it's interesting to think about. Theory 4. Somewhere out past the void is where you can escape the circus. The void is something that hasn't come into play since the very first episode, unless if you count the under the map out of bounds area in episode 2. But what if Pomni was actually close to escaping in the very first episode, and even Caine himself didn't know? What if out past the void there is something like a developer room, where Pomni could access developer tools to log herself out? It makes sense that one of the higher up people developing the game would have some sort of failsafe in place in case they accidentally brought themselves into the game. Consider this. What if the last episode of the show parallels the very first? Pomni enters the void. She finds the developer room that would allow her to leave the circus, but the failsafe is only for one person. In the first episode, when she found the exit door, she tried to leave almost immediately without hesitating, without considering the others. What if because now she's grown closer with the others, that she can't bring herself to leave the others behind? Would she tell the others about the one-person exit? Would she not, out of fear? What if she decides she can't leave them? She tells the others about the room, and she brings them there. Past the void, the developer room is shrouded in darkness. Kinger is able to think clearly, and with his 7 years of computer science, he is somehow able to alter the developer tool, making it so that they're all able to escape together. I think paralleling the first episode would be really cool, and it could go a lot of different ways. My dad actually helped me come up with the base of this theory. We've been watching the series together. Shout out to you, Dad. Theory number 5. What if one day, Pomni is just chilling with the others, when suddenly she snapped out of the circus? It was actually an experiment that was being conducted on her to see how she'd react to being a prisoner in a digital world. In this scenario, the others could be real or just NPCs for the purpose of the experiment. This theory is something random I thought up when I was sitting in class. Do I have evidence? Absolutely not. But ultimately, my goal is to consider every single possibility of how the series could end, so that eventually one of my blind guesses is right and I can tell everybody I'm psychic. If this crackpot theory were true, her memory of going to the abandoned building and finding the headset could be a fake implanted memory. And maybe she even volunteered for the experiment because she was bored with her grocery store job. It could be interesting to see how she would react to being back in the real world. Would she adapt back into society? Would she miss the friends she made in the circus? Lastly, I saved the truly most mind-blowing, amazing theory. What if Hear me out. We're nearing the last minutes of the final episode, and suddenly, Pomni wakes up. It was all just a dream. For the love of God, I hope that this theory doesn't come true. And I think there's a very low chance that it does. But please, this is the worst ending imaginable. It's a really cheap, uninteresting, and cliche plot twist that would disappoint me so much if it did happen. How do you think the series is gonna end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really like my theory number 4 about the void. And if it comes true, I would be super proud of myself. The Amazing Digital Circus is easily one of my all-time favorite shows. The character building is phenomenal, and I can't wait for the next episode. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go rewatch the whole series for the 9th time. Mesumi out!